The first season of Andor is best talked about in arcs. While each expertly written episode does have a clear beginning, middle, and end, the episodes also formed 3-act, generally in 3 individual episodes, structures all their own. The first of these 3 episodes can be summed up as the Ferrix Arc. Ferrix is an Outer Rim planet known mostly for second-hand scrapyards. This is where we meet Cassian Andor in 5 BBY. Andor is something of a thief and a scrounger, doing what he can to get by without much thought for anyone else. He's searching for his sister. The two were separated at a young age. His quest leads him to Morlana 1. Now, Morlana 1 is also in the Outer Rim and is home to the Preox Morlana Corporation. This is a company with relatively strong private security offerings. He goes into a brothel where he heard someone matching his sister's description may be working. He doesn't find his sister, but he does run into a couple of these private security guards. They see him as an outsider and try to shake him down. The mugging turns into a fight. One of the officers is killed accidentally, but to leave no witnesses, Andor shoots the other one in cold blood. This is worth detailing since it all happens inside of 10 minutes of the series' debut. It sets a clear tone that this is not like any other Star Wars that we've seen. Andor retreats back to Ferrix, where he gets a friend, Brasso, to be his alibi if anyone comes looking. We also meet Andor's adoptive mother, Marva Andor, and his droid, BT-EMO, affectionately called by the fans B2-EMO. Andor shows a surprising amount of warmth to the aging and lightly malfunctioning droid. Knowing he took things too far, Andor is looking for a way off of Ferrix. He has a stolen Imperial Starpath unit. This unit could not only track other Imperial frequencies, but it displays the starship locations on a map. Andor calls on another friend, though she doesn't seem too happy to see him, Bix. Bix has a secret contact with deep connections and deeper pockets. He wants Bix to get in touch with his contact about selling the Starpath. As Andor is plotting his escape from Ferrix, Cyril Karn, a deputy inspector of Preox Morlana, abbreviated to Premor in the series, is on to Andor. Karn's superior officer tells him to drop the matter of the 2 dead men, but Karn is overly ambitious to be more important than he actually is. Karn, encouraged by another overzealous Premor sergeant called Linus Mosk, puts together a task force to go to Ferrix and apprehend Andor. The Premor forces hit the planet around the same time as the mystery buyer, Luthen Rael. Rael isn't just a black market dealer. He's an agent of a rebel cell against the Galactic Empire. He's not there for the Starpath, he's there to recruit Andor. Andor isn't quick to trust, and he and Rael have to fight their way out past Premor together. In the chaos, Bix's boyfriend, Tim, is killed. Now, Tim is the one who called Premor to rat out Andor, so we don't like him as the audience watching, but if you look at it from his point of view, he sees Bix and Andor being very close. They live on this backwater planet, they don't have much to their names, and it's very clear that Bix is only with Tim out of convenience or safety. He's not the interesting person that someone like Bix is ultimately going to end up being with. So he did this out of a false sense of jealousy, and he did regret his actions immediately. I don't think it's cool that he called the cops on Andor, but he didn't deserve to die for it either. If you're getting value or entertainment out of any of my transmissions, it would mean a lot if you would join the Remnant and subscribe. The citizens of Ferrix, with no clear idea of the larger plot, do whatever they can to interrupt the Premor forces and warn each other of their presence. Andor gets away with Rael, leaving his entire life behind. This is also a big blow to Karn, who was counting on arresting a murderer to clear his name and defying his orders so blatantly. During this arc, we are given a large part of Andor's backstory. He was a child on Kenari, a mid-rim territory rich in minerals. All of the adults were basically forced to mine the planet into environmental collapse. It's also important to note that this was done in the days of the Galactic Republic. It's a very interesting thing to look at the Republic not through rosy glasses in this case. The adults died in one mining accident or another, and the kids all became orphans, leading themselves. Marva finds a young Cassian, then called Cassa, and takes him in. The second arc, the 4th, 5th, and 6th episodes, this arc covers the Aldhani Heist. This is my favorite arc of the first season. Rael brings Andor to a group of rebels on the planet Aldhani. Aldhani is an Outer Rim planet the Empire established a base on. They have spent years systematically destroying the native culture there to more easily expand their ports and factories. At this point, Andor isn't a believer in the wider cause, or any cause for that matter. He's only on board because Rael has offered to pay him a sizable amount of credits to help. The rebels on the planet, Vel, Cinta, Skeen, Terramun, and Nemik, have been plotting to steal the Imperial payroll for an entire sector for months. This group have bonded over their long time on the planet and are skeptical of Andor, coming in just days before the heist is to go down. Andor at this time is going by Clem, that is the name of his adoptive father, who was killed by the Empire. This arc moves the story away from Andor at times, where we catch up with Mon Mothma, still a senator and still living on Coruscant. She's secretly supporting various rebel cells and actions under the guise of charitable causes. She's also trying to use the sliver of power that the Senate still has to make the system work and restore power to the people, rather than everything being given to Emperor Palpatine. There's another powerful character moment where we see Luthen putting on his disguise. He's a garish Coruscant citizen who rubs elbows with the high society as an antiquities dealer. He changes entirely and even practices an over-the-top greeting and smile. There is so much pain and weight in his performance as he does this demonstration in front of a mirror. It is heartbreaking and telling, and just explains everything as Luthen as a character in one brief glimpse with no dialogue. It's amazing. Dedra Meero, a lieutenant with the Imperial Security Bureau, is interested in the Starpath theft. There have been similar thefts spread throughout the galaxy with some suspicious links. She's convinced these are not random acts, but are a more coordinated effort of the rebellion. She even points out to the only other officer who will listen to her is on board with her plan that the acts are so random that they're not. As in, they are planned to be so far and so spread out as to not look related that a random chance would have a couple of them happening closer together or with more similar circumstances. The episodes are deliberately placed, but when you take into account the amount of story that's covered, they are all jam-packed full. Andor himself is focused on the task at hand, the Aldhani Heist. The heist itself is timed to go off during a unique event on Aldhani called the Eye. The planet regularly travels through a field of crystals in space that give an intense and gorgeous meteor shower, covering and coloring the whole sky. Very cool graphics in this. This event allows the rebels to pose as Imperial troops, watching over the native traveling pilgrims. It also provides an effective, though dangerous, cover for their stolen ship to escape the planet. Despite months of meticulous planning, and even having an inside man, the heist is discovered midway through. There are casualties on both sides. The biggest one felt is Nemik. He's a small in stature guy. He's an idealist and an intellectual. He's crushed by a pallet of credits as the rebels make their escape. It's a tragic and ironic moment that really adds to the stakes of the series and the burgeoning rebellion against the Empire. After the heist is a success, Skeen tries to convince Andor to abandon the whole crew and the wider rebellion where they can run off, splitting the take. This is a great character moment for Andor. He's not a joiner just yet, but he is a man of his word. He kills Skeen for his betrayal, and he sticks to his original agreement with Luthen. This scene to me was a mirror. This is Andor on two paths. He could be the incredibly selfish guy, as he appeared to be in the very first episode, take half of his money, go get his adoptive mom, and disappear off into the galaxy, or he could do the right thing, even if the right thing does involve murder, so it's a sliding scale. The success of the heist has high-ranking Imperial officers, including Colonel Wolf Yularen of Clone Wars fame, to announce a new concentrated effort to take down these pockets of rebellion. The 7th episode is unique in the series as that it stands alone. Of course, the story is connected, but it's the only episode that has its own contained arc and doesn't really spill into the arcs of the other more clearly defined episode chunks. With the Empire tightening its grip, does that sound familiar? Meero is still on her crusade, insisting the rebellion is more organized than her commanding officers will admit. She goes above her immediate CO's head and maneuvers herself to be in charge of investigating this potential rebel network. It's also important to point out at this time in Star Wars history, there is no rebel alliance. There are a lot of individual pockets of rebellion, pockets of resistance, all doing their own thing. There is some communication between them, but it is not the alliance to restore the Republic that we would catch up with in A New Hope. Andor returns to Ferrix, where martial law is in full effect. His friends are upset with him as he's the cause for this. He never meant for these things to happen, and to me, it reads more as an excuse for the Empire to do this rather than Andor being directly responsible, meaning that the Empire is eventually going to tighten its grip around the throats of every citizen of the galaxy. They're just doing it as things come up in due course, since they can't put all of their resources into everything, everywhere. Andor wants Marva and B2 Emo to leave Ferrix with him and go into hiding. Marva always had a rebellious spirit and has seen the flicker of it inside Andor since she first encountered him as a child on Kenari. Andor's actions, along with the Empire's overreach, are giving Marva a second wind as she wants to stay in the fight and fight against the oppressors on Ferrix. Andor leaves on his own. Staying on Ferrix would only lead to his arrest before too long. He heads to a tourist destination planet, Niamos. Traveling under another false identity, Andor is arrested on trivial trumped-up charges and sentenced to 6 years in a labor camp. This extra harsh punishment is in direct relation to the Empire's latest crackdown that Andor was a part of causing. Again, this was just the Empire's excuse. They would have moved in this direction anyway. That point is further enforced once we get to the prison colony and learn how things are actually running there. My favorite arc in this first season is the Aldhani Heist, but for many people, it's this next arc. Episodes 8 through 10 are the Nakina 5 prison outbreak. The futuristic labor camp Andor is sent to is the definition of Imperial control and false promises. It's located in the middle of a rough ocean, so escape seems virtually impossible. Even if the prisoners could slip the countless technological guard safes, they would have to contend with the choppy waters and swim to land. The inmates are divided into teams. They're building unknown machine parts. This is an awesome payoff later on that we will absolutely get to because it blew my mind. Andor's floor manager, the prisoner in charge of the group of prisoners, is Kino Loy, played by Andy Serkis, who gives perhaps the greatest performance in any Star Wars project ever. Kino runs his floor tight. The Imperials running the prison pit the groups of prisoners against each other to increase productivity. The groups that do the best will supposedly be rewarded. Andor and Kino butt heads at first. Kino is lying to himself that if he just plays by the rules and keeps his team producing, he will be freed. This is absolutely not the case. The punishment system is designed so that no one ever gets freed. They aren't laborers, they're slaves. The prisoners who are supposedly freed are just transferred to a new group to keep the lie alive. At one point, the secret almost came out and an entire floor of the prison was eliminated to hide the truth. The episode One Way Out, which is also a great theme of this entire series, sees Andor carrying out an elaborate escape plot, one that would see many prisoners freed, not just him. The prison riot and break is a success. The prisoners make it outdoors where the ocean surrounding them becomes a harsh reality. There's an extra kicky here. And I know I've talked a ton about spoilers, I'm just barreling through this. This is a refresher for people before Season 2, so if you haven't seen Andor Season 1 and just curious about the video, thank you for watching, but you should absolutely watch the series. I do not want to spoil this moment because it's so impactful. And for those of you who have seen it and this is a refresher, this has to be jogging your memory, and that powerful moment has to be replaying right now. In the rest of the galaxy, Miro's rebel investigation leads her to Ferrix. Bix, Andor's friend who put him in touch with Luthen, is arrested and tortured for information on that very meeting. Mothma's story continues to be incredibly well developed and uniquely interesting. She's stuck with a tough personal choice that would sacrifice more of her family life for the burgeoning rebellion. There's an old Chandrillan custom that is Mon Mothma's home planet where she could marry her daughter away. The idea would be she marries her daughter off to that of a Chandrillan banker, and she in turn gets some discretionary funds that, unbeknownst to anybody else, she's going to funnel to the Rebel Alliance. Luthen's story gets great development as well. We meet his double agent inside the ISB, Lonnie Jung. Luthen makes a near impossible choice, worse than Mothma's. Luthen's choice is to keep Jung undercover, an incredibly powerful asset for the growing rebellion, but in turn, he has to sacrifice the lives of 50 rebels. 50 people who have joined up to the cause and trust Luthen to carry them through. Luthen delivers another incredible line in a series full of incredible lines. I burn my life to make a sunrise I know I'll never see. Not only is this arc entertaining, but all of our side players get some great moments. Andor continues to grow and has now very clearly shown signs of him being a leader. The final 2 episodes are the Ferrix Uprising. Andor learns that his adoptive mother, Marva, has died. It's a risky move to return to Ferrix, but he feels he has to. He isn't the only one. Miro decides to set a trap at the funeral, trying to catch Andor. She hopes that in catching him, she can interrogate him to ask about someone whose codename is Axis. We know him as Luthen. Luthen, Vel, and Cinta, 2 of the people from the Aldhani Heist, travel to Ferrix to kill Andor. They do this in the name of protecting Luthen's identity. The disgraced Karn, who has spent most of the season wallowing in his failure after he bungled his first trip to Ferrix, returns with Mosk in hope of catching Andor themselves and redeeming their careers. With all of the major players in the same place, a place that was already uncooperative to being controlled, receive a recorded message from the late Marva. We get a chilling speech where a giant projection of Marva urges every single person who can hear it to stand up and fight against the Empire. This is the final push the citizens needed. While much of the series is showing the early days of the rebellion before there's a rebel alliance, Ferrix now gets its own full-blown rebellion. In the midst of the fighting, Miro is almost killed. She's actually saved by Karn, who looks up to this woman, admires her, and possibly is infatuated with her romantically. Andor moves under the cover of the chaos and rescues the still imprisoned Bix. He and Bix rendezvous with Andor's other friends, including the loyal B2 Emo, and he makes up for years of selfish behavior by getting them out of harm's way. To show more character growth, Andor stays behind to face Luthen, fully aware that Luthen is there to kill him. At the end of the season, Andor's rebirth is complete. He gives Luthen 2 options: kill him where he stands or let him join up. He's a true believer in the cause. The man Marva always knew would emerge as there. We get a clear look at who Andor would be when we catch up with him at the start of Rogue One. This is the amazing payoff that I referenced when we were talking about the Prison Break arc. There's a stinger for the entire season. The strange objects that the prisoners of Narkina 5 were assembling are being joined together, millions of them, to create the actual dish of the Death Star's super laser. Absolutely incredible. I did not see it coming. Check out this video next for more deep dives on Andor.